You're listening to The Manning Report with your host, James David Manning. The news behind the headlines.
I sent out a tweet a few hours ago, maybe as many as 70 hours ago, or 50 hours, or 20 hours, or less than that, or more. And the tweet read this, it said that, and I quote, reason why you should vote Democrat in 2020. And I go on to say, I loathe that Democrats promote abortion and LGBTQ. However, you can choose not to abort or go gay. But the Donald Trump Republicans hate and marginalize black and brown people. And you cannot choose not to be black or brown. Several months ago, when Beto O'Rourke was running for Senate against Ted Cruz, I spoke clearly, and Stacey Abrams was running for governor of Georgia, and Andrew Gilliam running for senator of Florida during the 2018 primary. I stated that you should vote for these persons, and one of my very dear members, one who had really just come a long way in understanding the Word of God, she and her husband were strong supporters and had been blessed by listening to our teaching, and had discovered she'd found nobody with the kind of strength and straight talk in the Word of God that she'd been searching for so many years. But when I said Beto O'Rourke should beat Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz has those principles, anybody who lets another man call his wife ugly and defame his father who is deceased, and for months and months be referred to as lying Ted, and then Ted Cruz would then suck up to the same man that spoke ill against his wife, that Ted Cruz would turn around and kiss his rear end, does not deserve to be senator of Texas. No matter what you think about Beto O'Rourke, at least he's not the absence of integrity and ethics as is lying Ted Cruz, who would let a man slap his wife, and yet he would not defend his wife and his family. So there he wouldn't defend Texas. But these people left me. They left me. They left me for Ted Cruz. They left the man of God for Ted Cruz, a man who had led them and had brought them and taught them, inspired them, was helping to build their families, build the relationships of their love for their children, helping to understand their medical. They left me for Ted Cruz, who could do nothing for them. Because I said, vote for Beto O'Rourke, they deserted to me, and they've not returned. That has happened quite a bit over the past couple of years. But I want you to understand something. When I say, in this coming election 2020, vote for Democrats, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a liberal. And I make it clear that I loathe the fact that they support wholeheartedly and they force people to have abortions. And they support wholeheartedly the bully and the mafia of the LGBT community. I detest that in the greatest sense of the word. But you know, you don't have to have an abortion. You can choose not to. You don't have to go gay. You can choose not to. Though the Democrats support this as a platform of their campaigning and their structure to get votes, you don't have to go, you can vote for them, but you don't have to do what they say. But it's not like that with the Republicans, especially the Donald Trump Republicans, because you see, they hate and they marginalize brown and black people. They hate brown people. They hate black people. They fear black people. And see, where you can choose not to have an abortion, sure you can. You can choose not to go gay, sure you can. A lot of people choose to go, but you choose not to go. But you can't choose not to be brown or black. And so therefore, the injustice that will be leveled against this Donald Trump crowd like we have never seen before. You know, we have seen the American justice system. I don't know if you've ever followed Thurgood Marshall. Elizabeth and I watched it the other night. He's one of my favorites, Thurgood Marshall. Not so much because of his civil rights ideology of support of the NAACP, I do appreciate Brown versus Board of Education. I understand some of the other great battles, but Thurgood was a man like me. I mean, he didn't mind using what was considered a curse word every now and then. Thurgood had some other issues that people found probably most other people like to hide, but Thurgood didn't have a problem with that. But I think that if you want to be able to understand that years ago, black people did suffer. There's no doubt about it. The laws were unjust, the separate but equal school system with Brown versus Board of Education, the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, the Jim Crow spirit, the Plessy versus Ferguson, and all of that went on that made up Jim Crow and the after effects of slavery and the hatred. You had to go up into the balcony of the movie and you couldn't drink from the same water fountain. I understand that. I understand that. But my friends, can I talk to you as a senior representative? I went through all of that. But nothing in that period of Jim Crow, nothing is as vile as what we see happening now with Lindsey Graham, Donald Tribulation Trump, and others, these other old white men in the Senate. And what they want to do to this country, nothing of that period, nothing like picking cotton, nothing like Jim Crow, separate school, nothing. The governor of South Carolina in the Cleveland School District said, well, we don't want white boys and black boys educating with our white, so we'll build South Carolina schools and make them even better. And they made them better than the white schools. But Thurgood was not convinced. He said separate does not mean equal. And so he brought in the 1954 decision, Brown versus the Board of Education, that all schools had to be integrated. That was in 1954. I graduated in 1965 from high school, and still the schools in North Carolina were not segregated. In 1965, we're talking 11 years after the Supreme Court said you must segregate. But I have to tell you, my friend, you ain't seen nothing like what these old white men are doing now. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. I'm going to let you listen to Lindsey Graham say with a straight face that Don Jr. does not have to answer a court, does not have to respond or answer a court subpoena. He's going to say it with a straight face. Lindsey Graham, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, says with a straight face that there's an American that's white that does not have to answer the law. Listen to this. You won't believe it.
Was it also a setup to set up Donald Trump Jr.? I mean, what is this subpoena of Donald Trump Jr. coming out of your colleagues and the Senate Intel Committee?
As I understand it, this subpoena relates to what Michael Cohen said about some meetings and about the Trump Tower in Russia. All I can say is that Richard Burr is a very good friend. He's trying hard to be bipartisan. But anything based on what Michael Cohen said is worthless testimony. Michael Cohen is a worthless witness. And if I were Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyer, I would tell him, you don't need to go back into this environment anymore. You've been there for hours and hours and hours, and nothing being alleged here changes the outcome of the Mueller investigation. I would call it a day.
And there you have it. I mean, you can argue that Michael Cohen has been convicted of and exposed as a liar, but not everything he said is a lie. And even if it is, the Justice Department has the right. If they've issued a subpoena, they have the right to have Don Jr. come and sit before them and tell them it's a lie. They shouldn't hear it from Lindsey Graham or discredit it because of Michael Cohen. This is the kind of injustice that we didn't even see in the deep, dark South. This kind of injustice will make Bull Connor and George Wallace roll over in their graves. We've just never seen it like this. We've just never seen anything like this. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.